Hello, my loves, and welcome to another episode of FEMPIRE Builders. Your host here, Michelle Hext. And today I want to talk to you about the juicy subject of consistency equals cash. Consistency is not a very sexy word, right? It's kind of boring. It brings up images of Groundhog Day. It makes us feel like we're doing the same old, right? And those of us that are entrepreneurial and we're thrill seekers, most of us, to some extent. And so consistency can be a bit boring, but I gave myself an extra dose of, I guess, reasoning for leaning into consistency when this morning I went into my accounting software and I looked at my average yearly income over 12 years. That was as far back as it would take me. I have been in business a lot longer than that, but my accounting software Xero goes back to 2012. And I got to see that over 12 years and I think 149 months, because I threw in like the last few months from the financial year. So I went financial year to financial year. And I am one consistent bitch. Let me tell you that, because what I got to see is this trend of incremental increase year by year by year. There are a couple of years when it went backwards, and I went digging into my journals to see what the hell was actually going on. There was one year in particular, one financial year, that it was like, how did I even live on that? But then I had a look at the calendar year each year, and it was consistent. I was on track. Anyway, my point is, over 12 years, over 149 months, I have incrementally increased for the most part, and had years where I've doubled my revenue. So I've had those quantum leap years as well. But mostly it's been this bit by bit by bit by bit consistently growing over the years. And so I divided everything that was earned over that 12 years and broke it down to an average over each year. And then I had a look at, well, what about over the last 10 years? What was the average earning over the last 10 years? And then what was the average earning over the last 5 years? And what was the average earning over the last 3 years? And oh my God, the graph started to jump. And then I divided it into 149 months. It was like, so how much have I consistently earned? How much have I earned month in, month out, every single month for the last 149 months? And like, it wasn't shocking to me because I know my numbers, but just to see, like, it was phenomenal. And let me tell you something. So much of those years, I felt like I didn't know what the fuck I was doing or where the money was going to come from. And I put myself in a lot of angst over a lot of years, right? Where it's like, well, what if I can't do it again? What if like I can't repeat that year? Or what if I can't repeat that month or whatever, right? Now, I do know that years and years ago, I became very aware that within business over a 12-month period, you're going to have ups and downs, right? And so I had disciplined myself to only ever look at my numbers over 12 months, because then it does even out, right? You can have massive months and then you can have really shitty months. But over the course of 12 months, it all evens out in the wash, right? And so, where was I going with that? Anyway, yeah, so in those ditches, like in those dips, where when I'm staring down the barrel and it's like, and I get in my head and it's like, I don't know where it's going to come from. I don't know where it's going to come from. I don't know what I'm going to do. And all of that was for fucking nothing. Like, there was no reason for me to be so freaking dramatic about it. And so this time of the year, like around November, I'm always deep in this reflection phase. And I'm always looking at what I want to achieve for the next year, but I'm also looking at what I've achieved the previous year. And this year, for whatever reason, I've dived right into taking it back as far as I could. And what I have is evidence of the fact that for the last 12 years, I've consistently earned a high level of revenue. And even with the dips and the peaks and troughs, right? And so as I go into 2025, I'm thinking about things like, well, if I look at this trend and I know for sure that I never, ever, 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 ever have ever earned under this amount in at least 12 years, probably longer than that, then what can I use? I'm going to use that number as like not even my new bare minimum, but like that is like gone, because I've been there, I've done that, and I know the trend is upwards. Anyway, so why am I telling you this? Why is this important? It comes back to consistency, because I started thinking about things, and I will go back. I had 2017, 2018 financial year was like a shit show. 2017, January to December, fine. 2018, January to December, fine. But that financial year, so the 30th of June 2017 to the 1st of July 2018, absolute fucking shit show. And I'm going to come back to that. I've just made a little note there so I don't forget, because there was a reason that happened. I had to look at that and go, what the fuck happened? I obviously saved it. I obviously started 2017 strong, and I obviously finished 2018 strong, but the end of 2017 and the beginning of 2018, absolute debacle. Anyway, consistency, the business has come down to this, right? I have fundamentals in place. I have foundations in place. There are principles that I adhere to that have got me here, that have created this sustained success over all of these years. And it's not, excuse me, it's not from being, what do I want to say? It's not from chasing every latest trend. It's not, oh, fuck, TikTok is here, we better get on that. I'm not on TikTok. It's like, oh, we've got to only do reels. I'm not only doing reels. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. We've got to go high ticket. We've got to go low ticket. We've got to go funnel. We've got to do that. Like, I test and measure many things. I do try a lot of things. Those days, I think, are in the past now, because I've established what I want to go forward with, and I feel really good about it. I feel like 2025 is not a year for new things. It's a year for really growing the things that I've already established. But I've created a legacy, and I help my clients create legacy. So we're not chasing trends. I'm not teaching you how to be successful for a moment, for a launch, for a year. I'm teaching you how to build your business, create the offers, develop your frameworks, and build your systems that create a business that works for you regardless of the trends. What I've come to see, so last financial year, I doubled my revenue on the year before, and I did not jump on any trends. I actually went in the opposite direction of trends. And I leaned into, because it just felt so freaking noisy. And I just went, I'm not playing this game. I'm going to go inward. I'm going to lean into what I know and what feels true for me. And I'm going to do that. And that's exactly what I did. And so the numbers reflect the fact that we don't have to do that. We don't have to chase trends. What we need to do is do it our way, and trust that our way is the way that it gets to be done. Trust that that's enough. And so with all of that information in my notebooks and in my brain right now, I'm feeling so excited about 2025. I'm going to make some big changes to my company structure. I have a trust and a company set up. I'm going to make some changes before the year is over so that I go into 2025 with my new structure. I'm not going to talk about that now. I'm going to talk about it once it's done. And there are so many lessons there. I'm going to share my word of the year with you next week and my theme for next year, because this is really leaning into that. And I'll give too much away if I go into that now. So actually, I might not share it next week. I might share it in December. Anyway, I'll be sharing it with you soon. And it feels so amazing. I'm actually embracing it right now. So it's not my year, my word and my theme for 2025. It's for right now. Because one thing I know is that we push things into the future, we delay things, we procrastinate over the things that need to be done now, decisions that need to be made now. And, I had a conversation with my accountant last week, and then I messaged him Friday. I was heading to a winery day, which was amazing. I was heading there and I sent him a text message, which I never do. And I said, can we speak Monday? I'm sending you a text message because I'm out. I'm like on a bus and I'm about to have wine. So I don't want to send an email, but if you can just reply to me via email and let me know that we can catch up Monday, that would be great. I checked my email and I saw that he was organized. So we spoke yesterday morning, Monday morning, Australian time. And I said to him, after the small conversation we had on Friday, I've made a decision. I want to move forward with it. And he is organizing a group call. There's an attorney that I need and some other people that I need to make this thing happen. And so he is organizing that. He's like, we need to make that happen this week. And it's like, I love that. Like, I want everything tied up before the end of this year. And I have a team of my financial team is on board with that. And they're ready to go, which is so cool, so amazing. Anyway, so I'm going into next year, the rest of this year and the end of next year, feeling so ready for growth like never before. I looked at my numbers and it's like, and that was when you pretended you didn't know what you were doing half the time. And when you kind of gave it about 60 or 70%. So imagine what you can do if you give it like 80%. And as you know, I'm working to embody my human design, which means I'm not working any more than 12 hours a week. I'm going to get it down to 10, but right now it's 12. And so I want to just make next year a huge line in the sand moment and really lean into that human design. So growth doesn't mean working harder. In the past, I've thrown myself fully into it. And I said I might have given it 60, 70%, but that's because I gave it 110% for a few months and then burned my ass out and then had to rest for a bit, right? So I'm forearmed now with so many tools and so much knowledge and information that I didn't have before. So that feels so good. And I'm launching my mastermind at the moment for 2025. So we're going to work together for the entire of 2025. And I can't tell you how good it feels. With this level of clarity, it just means that I'm going to take a whole other level into the mastermind for 2025. So when my last mastermind wrapped up early this year. And one of the modules that I started was Grow the CEO. And then I removed it. It was a bonus. And I said, I just don't feel like I'm doing a good job of that. I don't feel like I'm there yet, so I can't teach it yet. But my alumni mastermind, they have access to any updates that go on in the dashboard. So they still will receive it, but I wasn't going to force it. And I feel like I can really use that now and set that up as one of the foundational pieces, which feels so amazing. But anyway, let me get back to 2017, 2018 financial year and what was actually going on there, because I was actually shocked at those numbers. because I typically set goals in the January to December year, even though in Australia our financial year is, um, 30th of June to the 1st of July, right? So I have a journal, like an online journal, like it's an app called Day One. And I went into day one and I looked back. I've actually got like an old laptop because my current laptop will let me go back as far as like 2020, I think. And then my other laptop will let me go back as far as like 2012, which is so amazing. And so I looked at 2017 and I started 2017 in Thailand. I'd flown there for a couple of days before New Year's because I wanted to wake up in Thailand on New Year's Day and be training there. That was just a goal that I'd set myself, and I did that. And I remember being in Thailand in that January and just having a really creative time. I had an amazing time, and I remember launching Business and Bubbles. I ran a like in-person networking kind of dinner. I think I hosted a couple of those in the seaside city that I lived in, and had people drive in from everywhere, which is really amazing. And I organized that from Thailand. I remember being in Thailand and meeting this guy in the gym who spoke to me about his friend, and then I met with his friend, and his friend came on board as a high ticket client, and like was a massive deal that I did there on the treadmill in the freaking gym. So it was off to a start. It was a really good year, and then I was obviously very, very visible, and I was living my best life, and I was sharing a lot of it online. And I received a message from an old client of mine. Like, I'm going back, I probably hadn't worked with her for 18 months, 2 years, something like that. It had been a while. I think she was part of my original 2014 mastermind. So that's where we're talking about. And I remember I was flying to Sydney, or I was flying back from Sydney. I'd been hosting an event in Sydney, and I was sitting in the airport, and a message came through on my phone, and it said something along the lines of, "Oh, it looks like you're doing really well for yourself." And the tone of it just wasn't right. And so I can't remember how I answered it, but a chill ran through my spine. And it's like, there's something in the energy of that. And I can pick up energy like nobody's business. And so the energy was not great. And anyway, long story short, she's like, I joined your mastermind and I didn't get anything out of it. And she wanted to sue me. And I remember when she joined, the mastermind had started running. She reached out to me and she said, "Do you mind if I join the mastermind?" I'm like, "Nope, that's okay." Halfway through the mastermind, she moved interstate. And I said, "Well, that's fine. Like, you can either fly," because back in the day I had an in-person day once a month. And I said, "You can fly in, or we can set you up. I'll set up the Zoom and you can join the meeting virtually." And she's like, "Yep, that's fine." And she joined for one or two, and then she just dropped off the radar. I was emailing her, I was reaching out to her, I was doing all I could to get her back on board. And she just went AWOL, she went missing. And then the next thing I heard was that message. And that started an avalanche of chatter in the background. And those masterminds over those few years, that first one was a baptism of fire for me. But hand on heart, I delivered every single thing that I said I would do. Everything that I said I would do, I did. And that's been the same with everything that I've ever run. Whatever is on the tin is what you're going to get and more. But this person had started to reach out to other people, and they started this campaign of hate. And it really rocked me so badly because integrity is my highest value by a long, like, but lie. a long shot. Like, there is no ifs or buts about that. Integrity is my highest value. And so to have these people question that and to go around the internet and start spreading lies and hate campaigns and damaging my reputation, I was so unprepared for it because it was undeserved. And I didn't know how to handle it. I took care of myself legally. I went and spoke to somebody and I'm like, what is going to happen? Like, what is this? What's happening? And, we had set my business up like for safety in terms of, a trust in a company so that, my personal assets are protected and things like that. So that's just smart business. I didn't know that I would need that when we set it up that way. I just trusted my accounting firm and they said, look, we need to set you up like this. And when I first started that company, I think that was the second one, but even the first one was set up like that. And it was kind of like, it seems a little bit overkill. And they were like, yeah, but we see where you're going and we want to set this up right from the beginning. Couldn't afford it. It was a pain in my ass to do it, but I did it anyway because I trusted them and I've had it running like that ever since. And so I knew that I was safe, but there was a potential for my company to be sued. A lot of people were litigating around that time because a lot of people were being let down and things like that. I was not one of those coaches. I did everything that I said. This was somebody that, the people that were bitching and moaning were the people that came in, expected that because they invested the money that they would magically achieve a result. And it just doesn't work like that, right? You've got to do the work. You've got to get uncomfortable. You've got to keep the pace of the program or you will fail. It's really that simple. And they didn't do that. But I carried it. I made it about me. I had so much shame around it and it brought me to my knees. And I reckon it took a good 3 or 4 years for me fully to be over it. But obviously, financially, I took a hit because of my emotions, because I let it get to me emotionally. From a litigation perspective, nothing ever happened. I offered that original lady, I said to her, look, I will fly to WA and spend a day with you and get you where you want to be. She was just like, no, fuck that. I want my money back, sort of thing. And it's like she'd obviously run out of money and even though we hadn't worked together for a couple of years, and she was like, well, where can I get some money back? Because she obviously went on a spending spree that she couldn't really afford. And I did everything to make it right, didn't work. 2017, 2018 as well is when I got into a partnership where I did my speaking tour around the US. And I know that it took a long time for us to see an ROI. So I remember operating in a place of a lot of stress because things just weren't working the way that we wanted them to. Everything cost like 100 times more than I thought it would. Now I run my events. I'm a one-person operation. I do it myself. Back in the day, we hired a team to fill the event, to run the ads, to do all the things. So I've cut the costs of that, like, to almost nothing these days. But anyway, that was that. But I was looking at my journal entries over that time and it's like, oh, okay. So that was the year that I really felt it. That was the year that I felt like I just wanted to stop and go back to martial arts because martial arts people were a whole lot better to work with. Their level of integrity is a lot higher. They take responsibility for their own shit. They don't blame other people. They don't go looking for a cheap payday and things like that. And so I was really reeling. It took a lot for me to get over that. I have this really deep sense of like injustice or a deep sense of justice. And when there's an injustice, I really, it hurts me and I find it really hard to get over. And it's, childhood stuff, being told I did things that I didn't do and not being believed when I really didn't, and then not being heard. And so I've rallied against that my whole life, not just for me, but for other people as well. Like I am the person that is always going to be standing up for people who I feel are being being treated unjustly, right? So it did a lot of damage that year. And when I think about it, it's still not completely gone. Like it's still, a little bit in my DNA. It still hurts me. It still makes me feel yucky when I think about it, even though like I've picked up my game and I've started moving on and I'm operating in a different way, right? But that's one of the reasons that I also want to change the company structure. It's like, you know, I want to close the door on the last however many years and start something and it's not new products, it's not anything like that. It's just, as I say, structure, and I'll talk about it more later, but I want to go into 2025 feeling like I've had a clean slate. So I haven't spoken about this because I haven't been on the podcast for such a long time, but I went through a massive declutter in everything. So I decluttered my house. I got like a hard rubbish collection, and I just one weekend went through the house and just got rid of everything. I went through every drawer, every cupboard, everything, and got rid of everything I didn't want. All my gym gear in my home gym that I don't use, which is 90% of it because I've got a gym membership, bought during COVID sort of thing. Sold all of that on Marketplace. My daughter had a lot of stuff here, and it was tied up in her eating disorder stages. So, tubs and tubs and tubs of clothes that she will, never fit into again, and she shouldn't want to because they were freaking children's clothes. And so they've been sitting here waiting for her to be ready to let them go. And I called her and said, look, I'm doing this massive declutter. I just want to I feel really compelled to clear things. How do you feel about coming into your room and let's just get rid of everything? And she's like, absolutely. And so she came around and it was done within like 90 minutes. And so everything is out of my house. Everything that I didn't want, anything that had negative energy, anything that was a reminder of, past pains and things like that, all gone. I went on a massive healing journey, and that was part of the process. I also have been going through, my website and my Vimeo and things like that. I'm still working through that, guys. There is so much content in there. A lot of it is going into FEMPIRE Builders because that's just where it belongs. But I'm going through and programs that I've retired that I keep bringing back out of retirement, they're going, they will find a place inside of FEMPIRE Builders because they're not a part of my high ticket stuff anymore, right? So all of that has been happening, clearing. And I feel like I want to do that within my company structure and things like that as well. So that's why that change is coming. And as I say, I will talk about it later on. But I can't tell you how good it feels, but let's just get back to the consistency thing, right? I have consistently challenged myself. I've consistently aimed higher. I have consistently done the fundamentals though, month in, month out, year after year, decade after decade, and they are what have served me, not trends. So it's not like the one big win that I had that changed my life. It has been brick by brick by brick by brick. And I look at what I've created now, and you couldn't break it if you tried. It is so strong. It's decades old, and you couldn't break it if you wanted to because the foundations are so strong. And the principles and the the foundational pieces and the fundamentals that I practice consistently over time are what have brought this sustained success, sustained over decades. That's what that's how you create a legacy, right? Not by jumping on trends and things like that. That's not to say we don't leverage things if they feel like a good fit and they align with who we are and, who we want to be online and as a company, as a brand. And so all of those things, I just feel like I'm ending this year with so much clarity, with so much conviction and clear and healed. I feel healed for the first time in ever really. Like I've done the work year after year after year, and I've, do the journaling and, whatever else I need to freaking do to work through things. But like a deep, significant, seismic shifting kind of healing, I haven't done for many years because I did it, in my 20s and felt like I'd done it, but life is life, right? And things accumulate and back up and all that stuff, and we've just got to deal with things. And if we get too busy and we make ourselves too busy, we stay distracted so we don't have to deal with stuff because things are okay. You know what I mean? They're not perfect and they could be better, but they're okay. So why upset the apple cart? Well, I upset the apple cart, and it has been a year that I tried to Pollyanna my way through the year. So what that means is it's like, oh no, it's fine, it's fine. And then I hit a wall in, I don't know, September, something like that, August, September, and went inward, did the work and all the rest of it, and come out the other side of it. And there are some still, some lingering things that I've just needed to deal with. And I remember saying to a couple of girlfriends last week, it's like, you know what? 2024 has been fucking miserable for me. I've been miserable most of the year, and I can't wait for this fucking year to end. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I know, I never say that. I'm never the person that says that. I said, but you know what? It's the year I needed to have. It is absolutely the year that I needed to have to reevaluate everything, to really choose what's more important to me than anything else. And that came down to little things, right? Little things like my vision board. I make a vision board and then I, resize it so that I've got one on my phone. And it's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be constantly faced with what am I trying to achieve? What am I pushing for? What am I going for? So I created a collage that is all of the people that I love, like photos of my kids and I, photos of Dave and I, and like moments that really make me happy. And now when I open my phone, I'm not reminded that don't forget to chase that goal. I'm reminded of what actually matters, which is the people in my life. And what's really important is that. And the other stuff, when I look back at all those years, over that consistency over years, I'm like, you know what? That's going to take care of itself because I've got form for that. And instead of giving my, most of my focus to that and making my business me and me my business, I've created distance. I think I spoke about this in the last episode, but I created a degree of separation between me and my business. We're not one anymore. Like I am the CEO of my company and my business is a part of what I do. I love it. I'm passionate about it. Love my work so much, but it's not all of me. It's 20% of me. And it should be focused on appropriately, because I've got life. I've got a life I want to live. And, having my illness diagnosed and things like that as well, that, made me reevaluate last year as well. And so I feel like I'm coming really to the end of like a 2-year cycle of being, my world being rocked a little bit and then getting my feet from underneath me and then feeling like, okay, now I can just pick up and do what I was doing before. But something had changed within me and I wasn't acknowledging it. I wasn't acknowledging that, I can have this change, but unless I actually follow through on the change and embody it, it's actually for nothing. And so, yeah, it's been a year of a lot of inward reflection and also so much resistance around doing anything that is not a fuck yes. I can't make myself do anything I don't want to do. I've always been reasonably good at that, but like even more brutal, more relentless in that, adopting, if it's not a fuck yes, then it's a no. And I can just move on with my life. And leaning into my human design, learning about that and making, like I make decisions very quickly. My authority is splenic. And I know that, like I knew that before I even knew that was a thing. And it's like, oh, this is what that is. And I trust that. I don't second guess it. I was being indecisive over the last couple of years, one foot in, one foot out of everything that I was doing. And I don't operate well like that. It just feels muddy to me. And so I needed to clean up a lot of different things. And that's why I've been pretty quiet, because I work in silence. I work through that stuff in silence, show up for my clients, do what all of that stuff is never, ever, ever compromised. But content creation and visibility is. And, I'm okay with that. And I'm looking at my numbers, and that hasn't had any impact at all. I guess I have been relying on ads a lot more for sure. So that's definitely made a huge difference. But it's not been required of me to show up and create content. I'm just creating it now because I want to, and it feels good. And I feel ready to do that again. But this stage in my business, right, this time where I've been inward and been quiet, I've had this happen many times over the years, right? This is my process. And I do get excited because I know what it means. Like, if we follow the cycles, I know that this is, setting me up for a really incredible year. But my point really is, over the, decades, I've had phases like this where I have to go inwards, where I really wrestle with, the online world and who I am, and integrity and things like that. But it hasn't impacted my business. Other than that year, the financial year 2017, 2018, when a lot of shit was going down, I was in partnership with somebody else. It didn't work out, and all those sorts of things. Like, every other year has been a really good year. And it has not relied on me being up all the time. It has not relied on me knowing exactly what I'm doing, and, being 100% being able to predict the future and things like that. My best years, my most comfortable years, like mentally, are when I have my masterminds and things like that running, because I love high ticket monthly recurring revenue. It's what I teach my clients. It's what I love. And so, they're always my best years, where I get to just really enjoy the journey instead of feeling like I've got to reinvent the wheel every year. And so that's happening in 2025. It's enrolling right now. I also have FEMPIRE Builders that I'll be growing over the next 12 months. They're my two focuses, and they are both MRR products, so monthly recurring revenue products. My mastermind is about 20% pay in full, but the rest are all monthly payments. And that's how I like it, because it creates that stability in revenue and things like that. So, looking back, the thing that I want you to take away is that consistency really is cash. And we can have inconsistent moments. We can have an inconsistent month or week or few days or whatever it is. But if we're consistent 80% of the time, like, I'm probably consistent, I would say 80% of the time is probably fair. I was going to say 90, but I might be lying to myself. So let's say 80% of the time, I'm really consistent. And that's served me very, very well. So just aim to be consistent, and know that you're going to be human, and there are going to be times where you need to go inward. There are going to be times when you don't want to show up. But if you've got your business set up the way that I would teach you to set it up, you will know that it's still continuing to grow anyway, regardless of whether you feel good, regardless of whether you feel positive, regardless of whether your energy is high vibe or not. Like, none of that forced toxic positivity, forced high vibe, forced only good vibes here stuff, that doesn't serve us. Like, we've got to allow ourselves to be human, and that means we're going to have shitty times, and that's okay. It's going to happen. Just be okay with that, because they're the ones that teach us the most, right? But set your business up, build the foundations correctly, and if you've done that, hats off to you. If you haven't done that and you feel like it's a what's the word? If you feel like it's precarious, then it's time to go back, right? I look at that. I'm talking about the last 12 years, even though I've been in business forever. I'm talking about the last 5 years, because these are the financials that I had access to on my Xero dashboard this morning. And if we look at those last 10 years, 12 years, I have not been high vibe for all of it. I've not had the best attitude for all of it. I've gone missing for part of it. And I've learned a lot along the way. And so those 12 years that I have been learning and honing and developing systems and frameworks and better ways to do things and all the rest of it, you get that 12 years of experience and the mistakes that I've made, the money that I've invested that was a mistake, and not necessarily a mistake, but didn't ROI, all of that, you get the benefit of that in a year. And if you join S.H.E Mastermind now, you get an extra 2 months because we don't start until the end of January. And that means you've got 6 weeks left in this year and the start of January to really get your ducks in a row. Because what I want for you is why not join now and have that extra 2 months? Because the more prepared you are going into that mastermind, it means we get to do more. So the way that the mastermind works, it's not like everybody starts here and then everybody moves to the next step at the exact same time. It doesn't work like that because everybody's at a different stage, right? And if you come in and we get you to start in January and you've already got your signature offer up and it's already running and you're already selling that and developing your lead gen and stuff like that, if that's already happening, that gives us more time for you to launch a mastermind. It gives us more time for you to launch a membership program. So the deeper that you get into the work between now and January, the more you get to do in that 12 months. So that's what I would be doing. I'll be getting started now, knowing that you're going to have access to what you need access to. I'm going to be there. We'll do a 2-hour deep dive so I can support you, get you clear on what it is that you're going to be doing, what we need to get rid of, how we're going to structure things going forward. All of that's going to be really, really important. And then I'll give you access to the dashboard, to get that first part done and up and running. So that's happening inside of FEMPIRE Builders at the moment. Last week I dropped the 2025 Success Planning Bootcamp in there. So you can go and map out your whole year. You've got a week free, so you can go in there into FEMPIRE Builders, get that free week, take yourself through that program, and then get out if you want to. But I think you're going to want to stay because it's amazing in there. So they're the two main things. I am dropping a Good Friday offer tomorrow as well. So keep your eye on my Insta. And if you're on my list, keep your eye on your email because it will be made available there. Yeah. I look forward to having you in my world in some capacity between now and the end of the year. And I look forward to sharing everything that I've learned with you in 2025 to make your journey that much smoother. And one of the things, right, I'm definitely a strategist. The strategy is there. But one of the things that I do for my clients is help them to really figure out what they're here to do and how to showcase that in the best possible way so that people want to work with them. It's really that simple. I have a knack for it. And I have the ability to stop my people from freaking out, get them back on path, get them believing in themselves and trusting so they can continue to take action. And it essentially comes down to consistency. They're consistently taking action because they know that I'm there looking out for them. If they make a mistake, I'm going to catch them. If they don't know what to do next, I show them what to do next. I clear the path for you to be able to create that next level of success. Anyway, that is it for this week. It was a big one, but I had a lot to say. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it and I will see you next week. Oh, and I do want to apologize. Last week, I used GarageBand and I went to listen back after I'd already uploaded the episode and it was echoey. So I don't know why that happened. I'm really sorry about that. I've switched to Riverside now, so we should be good to go. All right, that is it, my loves. I will see you next week. Bye for now.